Welcome to the Dad Show podcast. How y'all doing? Today is part 2.
The blessing in it is my older sons, they used to fear the consequence of what I would do to them if they messed up. My younger sons, they fear letting me down.
Yeah.
And that's a difference with parenting with fear versus parenting with love. Because like I know, with God, we don't fear what God is going to do to us. We don't want to let our Father down.
Yeah, exactly.
We want him, when it's all said and done and we standing before him on Judgment Day, we want our Father to say, well done, my son.
Amen. Yes.
And so I thank God for that understanding, that revelation of parenting them how he parents me.
Yeah. So how has it changed your life as far as growing up without a dad to what you wanted to change when you had kids? Like
to say it one more time.
So like whenever you were growing up and you said your dad wasn't present, your mom was raising you in the home.
Right.
How did that change you whenever you had children? Did it make you want to be a better dad, or did
it make, you know what? When I first, so I will say two things. One is I always had the perspective that I want to be a better father than my father was. And as I matured, God told me, he said, you don't let your parents, who are you to judge them?
Yeah.
Who are you to make them the foundation of where you want to go? How about you allow my word to be the foundation? Because you don't know the stories that they don't tell you.
That's so good.
You don't know the experiences that they had in order to sacrifice the place that you are. All you can see is where they weren't there.
Yeah.
And if you allow them to be the foundation, then you are condemning them to judgment for what you didn't have.
Yeah.
And I was like, I never looked at it like that. And with God giving me that revelation, I became a better parent at 38 years old when I called my father and I told him Happy Father's Day for the first time in my life.
Wow.
And what made me do it is because I realized I had all this resentment. And I watched my mom take care of 8 kids by herself. My dad wasn't there. And I had all this resentment towards my dad. And God said, you're judging your father, but you run a business right now that takes care of your family from a seed that your father sown.
Yeah.
And he began to walk me, and my dad was always in and out of jail. He walked me back till I was 4 or 5 years old. And when my dad would come home, he would make me and my brother do push-ups. He would make us do sit-ups. He bought us little curl bars. He made us exercise. He made us work out.
Yeah.
I own a gym right now that provides for my family. So I'm judging him for how he wasn't there and what his contribution wasn't when the very thing that is providing for my family came from a seed that he sown.
Wow.
I kid you not, Ryan. I called him and I said, Dad, I said, I'm sorry. I said, I've been judging you. I've been resenting you. I've been holding you to the ways that you weren't there. I said, but the seed that you sown allows me to take care of my family. I said, Dad, I forgive you. And I want you to know that I see you from today forward. And when tomorrow comes, I see you from tomorrow forward. I said, I love you. Happy Father's Day. And hopefully we can build from this place forward. And my dad cried like a big baby.
Wow.
Oh, he cried like a big baby. And in him crying, he said, I want you to know that these aren't sad tears. These are happy tears. He said, I'm crying because it's like my soul is being cleansed. He said, because Vincent, what you don't understand, and this blew my mind, and I don't know if God answered it or not, but I can see the fruit in him doing this. My dad said, he said, Vincent, I prayed, and I told you my dad was always in and out of jail. He said, Vincent, I was locked up one time. And when I was locked up, he said, I prayed to God and I told God, I will do all the time that needs to be done as long as my sons don't have to see the inside of a jail. And I kid you not, out of 6 boys, none of us ever been in jail.
Wow.
And Ryan, before I got saved, before I gave my life to Christ, I was selling drugs. I was selling weed. I was doing all kinds of felony activity. I had spent time in the county on like the weekend where, you go down there drunk, you sober up, they send you home. But I never been to prison. I never had any felonies. And when my dad said that he prayed that prayer, I can see how I can see the fruit of it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's a coincidence or God answering his prayer, but I'm judging him for how he's not there. And his prayer is that he will stay away as long as we don't have to experience the inside of a jailhouse.
And there's no coincidences. Nothing happens by coincidence.
Listen, tell me about it. It blew my mind. It let me know of how much we can judge our parents and not know their story.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah, 100. How has your relationship with your dad been since that conversation?
Oh, it's great. Oh, it's so good. I find myself talking to him, and we still probably talk like once every couple months. And when I talk to him, I find myself ministering to him. I find myself encouraging him. My dad been in the streets as long as I can remember, and he's still out there a little bit now. But I can tell at 60, if I'm 44, he's 62. I can tell at 62 he's tired.
Yeah,
he's tired, and I see him more times now than ever before, calling me and my other siblings to pour into him, to encourage him, like we are all he has. So I thank God for bringing us to a place of maturity where we can love on him despite what we felt we didn't receive from him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of having that anger and all that.
Yeah.
Give it to God 100% and he'll take care of it.
Absolutely.
Relationship right now renewed. So he's calling for that fulfillment that he sees in you all. Just like you've seen with your brother when you moved down to Georgia. Like he has so much fulfillment through God that I don't have.
I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah. And so your dad, I'm sure sees that same thing whenever he talks to you, talks to your siblings, you know, right now, like, and eventually it'll click. And eventually you'll get to him and he'll be, you know.
And my dad always says, and he knows the word, and he always says, if I was no earthly good, then I wouldn't be here. He said, but I got a story to tell.
Yeah.
And I believe it. And I believe in the right time, at the right season. The Bible says that there's a time and a season for everything. I believe at that right time, at that right season, God is going to reel him in, just like he did the rest of us.
And one thing I want to go back to, which was very huge, and I don't want to just pass over this because I feel like it is a really big part of being a dad, being a husband, being a friend, just being somebody that you meet on the street. That clear, concise communication that you had with your older sons.
Right.
Of, you know, creating that safe space and letting them tell you exactly how you feel. Because even though they were telling you, you still got defensive. You know, you still, no, you're it now. Oh, you know, I got to back up a little bit.
Right.
But man, that's so powerful, dude.
Right.
For one, to have that open communication with your kids, and that opened the door to now your younger kids that you have that clear lines of communication.
Yeah.
But in this world today with the way social media is and the internet and just the way the outside world is, like, if I can't come to my dad and tell you how I feel or what's going wrong, you sure don't want me finding it somewhere else.
Right.
And
there's a lot of dads that haven't had healthy male leadership or emotionally healthy men as examples for them. And because we didn't have that, we're the generation that's doing the work to give that to our children.
Yeah.
But the challenge is just think of how many fathers aren't doing the work in order to provide a safe space emotionally for themselves, to be that emotionally safe space for their kid.
Yeah.
And so that is a very rough place to be in.
Yeah, because if you don't create it, then more likely they're going to see the inside of that prison, or they're
absolutely
be looking at porn on the internet, or just, and especially, man, you've got a daughter now, and I've got a young daughter, and I don't want them going out and finding some other male figure, to cater to them or anything, or use them, abuse them, and all that. I want my daughter. There's an issue, or even if there's not an issue, I want you coming to me. I want you to feel safe in coming to me.
Absolutely.
And dude, you hit, now that I'm talking about our daughters, I'm thinking of something else you said earlier about creating that example for your sons to know how this is how you're supposed to treat a woman.
Right.
This is what you're supposed to do for them. It's how you're supposed to love. You're supposed to take care of them. You're supposed to love your wife as Christ loved the church. Or loves the church, not love the church, but loves the church. But then on the flip side of that, now you've got a daughter and you see, oh, I've got to show her how she is supposed to be treated.
Exactly.
What she's supposed to be looking for. It ain't all about the being used and abused and all that.
Absolutely. You know what I learned? Another great thing that I learned in having a daughter is daughters learn emotional health from their fathers.
Wow.
And God showed me that because oftentimes women are emotional. God made women more emotional, made men more logical. When I got married and my wife brought my daughter into the picture, my daughter's emotions was all over the place. And it took me coming into the picture and allowing her to understand, listen, you can have your feelings, you can have your emotions, but we're not going to get over emotional about this thing because you're not getting your way, or we're not going to be emotional to try to manipulate to make things go a certain type of way. And it teaches her healthy emotions. And when a father is not in the picture, then women oftentimes become overly emotional because they didn't have that dad in the picture that can see stuff from a logical place. Most times when the daughter is emotional, mom's handling with emotion. We got too emotional, And so I can see how when even if my daughter, she could do something where, let me see, like her mom could tell her, you're going to bed early tonight because you didn't finish your homework. And she'd be like, oh, mama. And I could be like, and I'll come in and I'll be like, your mom said you're going to bed early tonight because you didn't do your homework. And she says, yes, sir. Yeah. She knows, like she understands from a father that you don't use those emotions because you don't agree with something.
Yeah.
That it's okay that this is the decision that mom made and you just abide by it. But just imagine without a father being in the picture, those unhealthy emotions or manipulative emotions or being overly emotional just run wild.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's, and you don't want them to go find that comfort
in somebody else
that's,
or in the wrong person.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Because men know how to manipulate those emotions or play on those
take
emotions.
advantage of it.
Exactly.
So how, when the daughter was brought into the picture with your wife, how did that change you to want to treat your wife better? Like, because it makes you have a different outlook, right?
Right.
So
at first, I kid you not, I didn't know what to do. I let mom make all the decisions. I let mom just do it all. Cause then I kind of stayed back and kind of observed how she was with the daughter. But then I would watch when when mom wasn't around, I would watch how the daughter felt safe with me. She's not trying to, and what I love about it is I could discipline my daughter and I could be like, you weren't supposed to be doing that. And she'd be like, yes, sir. Can I have a hug, Dad? Like the love doesn't change. Like they need that order and that structure.
Yeah.
But I learned in my daughter, it taught me how to check my demeanor, my tone, my delivery when it comes and when it listens to my wife. And my wife, she said it to me. She checked me one time. She says, the level of care that you give when you're talking to her, you don't give me that. And I was like, I do, but I didn't. So it checked me because at the end of the day, she's still a daughter. And although I'm not her father, God has put me in a position still as a father to protect, provide, to cover.
Yeah.
And so I have to make sure it's even more intentional that I have to be with my wife because of how she has experienced life and the traumas that has happened to her. I have to be more intentional about being a safe space for her so that way she can trust the safety that God is allowing me to bring.
Yeah. The whole aspect of showing the daughter,
exactly.
Because it made me, whenever, I had my daughter, it wasn't that I treated my wife bad,
right?
But I didn't pay attention to all those small
little details. Yeah.
And whenever I had a daughter and she was of age to start seeing all this stuff, now I'm like, oh, well, maybe I need to start doing this a little more.
Right.
I need to start paying attention to this and just those little bit. I mean, just as simple as walking by her in the house and, rubbing her arm.
Yep.
Or, she's sitting in a chair and massaging her shoulders for a minute, or just walking up and say, look, babe, I love you. Like, thank you for being my wife. Thank you for cooking dinner. Just small things that I want my daughter and my son both to see and acknowledge that this is healthy.
Right.
And
I have a video on social media on my Instagram. It's got like 13 million views.
Wow.
And it was me and my bonus daughter at our wedding, and this blessed me so much. We're doing the father-daughter dance. And in doing the father-daughter dance, I'm talking to her and I'm like, I'm the best bonus dad in the world. And she says to me, and she has been calling me Denims for 2 years since she know me. And Denims is the dad on Bluey, on the cartoon.
All right.
And so she's always called me Denims. And while we're doing the father-daughter dance, I said to her, I said, I'm the best bonus dad in the world. And she looks at me and she says, well, technically you're my dad because you married my mom.
Wow.
Right? I broke down.
I was about to say, how do you hold it together, man?
I did not hold it together. I'm talking about it's just rain. Like it broke down. I broke down like it was one of the most touching, most emotional things because I'm not like they're my wife's ex-husband. He kind of abandoned them. And I could understand. And I remember telling her this before I even knew she was my wife. I said, I believe that God has assigned me to your children. And I didn't know why, I didn't know what, but after we start talking and I begin to get more understanding, I realized that their dad, that he had ghosted them.
And thank God that it was you that was put in the life and them not finding somebody to take advantage of
Exactly.
So how has it changed having a daughter now? Because you're used to raising boys.
Yes.
That, the whole, raising and punishment and everything else is completely different.
Right.
And you've decided to change your ways and have more open communication with your younger son.
Right.
So how has having a daughter changed also that you parent your sons as well? Because that's two separate.
My sons always say, if that was us, it'd be a different story, Dad. And I would say this. I actually discipline them the same, but I don't discipline them with the same language. With my sons, I can be straightforward. I can be cut and dry. I say what I mean what I say. I'm very assertive, very direct. And I look at it with my sons because they, being in shape and being big, they can be intimidated by me.
Yeah.
But I realize if they can stand up and man up to me, then they'll never be intimidated by somebody, by a job opportunity, by anyone out in the world. And so I'm very direct, I'm very bold, I'm very assertive when it comes to my sons, and it teaches them to be the same way. With my daughter, I talk a lot more gentle. It's a lot more gentle because I don't want to be scary to her. You know what I'm saying? What I found is my wife, her love language, I ain't even gonna say her love language. When I'm showing my wife a lot of attention, like she's just extra giddy and laughy and jokey and playful, like she eats it up. And I realized that our daughter is the same way. And so like if I'm coming in the house and I'm overstimulated because I had a long day and I don't really say too much, then my daughter, she'll kind of look at me and say, hey, Dad, love you, Dad. But she kind of won't bother me. But if I come in and I'm extra jokey and I'm extra playful and I'm giving her all the attention, oh, she's sitting up under me and she's like, Mom, look at me. I'm laying on Dad, And so
I want her to be jealous, huh?
Absolutely. And I realized this in my bonus daughter and her brother is I have to be more intentional with them because their father walked away. And one thing that we know is God is a father. And God being a father is the source and source of identity. He is a cultivator. It is God and a cultivator is to till, to plant, to grow. Is to till, to break it down, to plant, put that word in, and to grow you into who he's called you to be. And they didn't have that because he walked away. And so I realized that I have to be even more intentional because when a parent walks away, the thing that is present spiritually is the spirit of rejection, is the spirit of abandonment.
Yeah.
It is inevitable that they feel these things. I remember end of 2023, beginning of 2024, he had asked about his dad and she hadn't really told him anything. He just knew that he hadn't been around. And she finally told him, she said, listen, I've reached out to your dad. I have tried to get him to see y'all like I've done. She basically gave him the whole rundown and told him like he didn't want anything to do with you guys. He signed over the rights to me. And they're driving home from a church event. And she calls me. She said, listen, I need you to come out here with Matt because I don't know what to do. And I go outside, Ryan. It hurt me how broken this young man was. I have never seen a kid nor adult in my life at 44 years old cry as hard and be as hurt as this young man was. And I didn't know what to say. I just held on to him and I just embraced him. But what happened in that is the spirit of rejection, is the spirit of abandonment. He's not going to look at it from the decision that his father made. He's going to look at it of, why am I unworthy to be wanted? Why did you leave me? And so I am very intentional about loving on them, about catering to them, about caring for them, about making sure that I don't treat them no different than I treat all of the rest of the kids, because I want them to know that they aren't rejected, they're accepted. I want them to know that they aren't defective, that they're loved. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it definitely, not even in just my bonus daughter, it has made me more intentional about them both in general.
And your presence, man, that I don't want to pass over that. When you embraced him and your presence of just saying, look, I'm here.
Right.
I'm not going to be that person that's just going to leave you.
Right.
I'm here for you no matter what. And, you know, there's a story with that kids bring us a lot of stuff, and us as dads or even our wives brings us stuff that we want to fix. Like, you know, we're fixers, man. We want to get down to the problem, right? Tell me how I can fix it. Tell me how I can help.
Right.
And we don't have to do that.
Right.
All we need to do is embrace.
All
and
we
hold
need to
them
do is embrace
and give them our presence and our attention. And that's so strong that, I mean, I hate to hear that their dad left them.
Right.
But I'm so proud of you for stepping up and stepping into that position and loving them and taking the extra effort to, you know, fight those battles. Because I'm assuming at first it was not easy for them to accept you or even open up to you, because they didn't want to open up, and then you just hit the road.
Especially the daughter. I said the daughter. My daughter, when I first start coming around.
Now, thank you for watching part 2, and come back tomorrow to watch part 3. Thank you for listening to the Dad Show podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Dad Show podcast. Please like, review, and subscribe.